Hello and welcome to the Afrique Dominion show. My name is Freeman Singirankabo, and thank you so very much for tuning into our program today. Those of you joining us, especially if you're joining us live from the social medias like Facebook, YouTube, and some of those private social medias that you have given us some access to, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are so excited and happy to be here today with you guys on this Monday as we share the program on these airwaves and new uplinks as well. A huge welcome to those of you also joining us from the radio stations and televisions. We are super happy and excited to have you guys join the program as well. And I also want to let each and every one of you to please share this content, share your link, share your channel with your friends, family members, co-workers, and the loved ones. Make sure that everybody comes in and participate. Why? Because this is that time of our lives where we can actually speak our mind, speak our heart, speak whatever it is that we have from deep within ourselves. Every time we are on air, we speak boldly, we speak frankly with each and every one of you, and we speak without any apologies to anybody. Why? Because what we discuss here, it's one of the most intimate conversation, one of the most issues that we truly care about, and we have not had a chance or an opportunity to share with you guys for such a long time. So this is our season, this is our time. What we do here, we do it, we mean it, with no apologies to nobody. A huge thanks to HMG Network and the affiliates for broadcasting this signal through all kinds of platforms. We are super grateful, guys. We are really, really grateful. And also, I want to let each and every one of you know what a privilege it is for us to be sitting in front of you, for us to come inside of your living rooms, for us to find you on your telephone, for us to find you in whatever environment that you are actually watching and listening to us right at this moment. We are super excited with that. And it is for this reason that I also want to share with you and let you know that everything that we do discuss here at Afrique Dominion show, we speak, we provide, we discuss all in the spirit of truth, love, and trust. And these are the benchmarks by which we would hope and we would like each and every one of you guys to measure both the validity and the truthful of the content that we are sharing with you guys. Check and see if what we are sharing with you is truthful, is real. It's something that you can subscribe in, something that you can actually follow, believe, and even support. Because if we do not add any value to you, if we do not add any value to your family, if we do not add any value to your community, even your nation, please let us know so we can actually change that. Because there's no reason why we should be changing. We should be spending time, precious time that we don't have, just for the sake of doing it. That's not our goals here. That's not our goal here. And we also ask that you guys also, anywhere you are, you also check us to make sure that we also stand by what we are saying, and also that we are adding some value to your lives. And with that in mind, I also want to ask that you show us that we are either adding value or that we need to add value by actually giving us some feedback. If you don't give us any feedback, we won't know what we're doing right, where we are doing really, really good, we are adding any value, or where we are actually messing up. And I want to make it clear that every time we come on air, every time we come in these chats, in these chat rooms, every time we have these physical meetings, guys, we are so mindful of so many other things that you overlook, so many other appointments that you cancel just so that you can be with us. So we are really privileged, and we are very, very humbled by the opportunity you have actually given us to share and to link with each and every one of you guys. So that is why I want to give you guys our platform contact informations, be it on the website, be it at the studio, be it however you find it easy to get in touch with us. First and foremost, I'd like to let you know that each and every one of you can actually link with us via website. Our website is www.afridominion.com. www.afridominion.com. This is the easiest. I would say that it is the most easiest way for you guys to join us, for you guys to get in touch with us, for you guys to know where we're up to. Again, it's www.afridominion.com. Our main email is info@afridominion.com. info@afridominion.com. Those are the main, I would say, those of you who are techies, those of you guys who want to be able to quickly get in touch, that is the primary way you can get in touch with us. We have colleagues who are on standby all the time, especially if we're having these broadcasts, so they can be able to help you guys out. As soon as you arrive to the website, we have phone number there, we have social media handlers, we have various ways you can get in touch with us. And it's in real time. We are in real time. There's no delay, especially if you're actually reaching out to us while this conversation is happening or while this broadcast is taking place. I just want you guys to know that. So take advantage of the opportunity, take advantage of this time frame, of this season that we have, so that your voice, it's also represented. It is very crucial. It is very crucial. And with that in mind, guys, so I'd like to give each and every one of you a huge welcome regardless of where you find yourselves at, whichever region that you are actually connecting with us from. We are giving you a huge welcome. Also, if you do have the opportunity or the time, join us. We have live Zoom. You can get in touch with us via live Zoom. We also have some other live platforms like these social media platforms that we can connect with you guys. Use them, make them, use them at your own disposals. We have them available. So those of you guys who want to plug in, those of you guys who want to add some value to these conversations and the future conversation, a huge welcome to you guys. So that is as clear, as plain as it can be. And with that in mind, I want to jump right in the conversation. I want to jump right in the program so we don't waste any time. This is one of the programs that I love. We just started it back in January. And those of you guys who don't know what it is, Afri-Dominion show in the Afri-Dominion, it's one of the concepts that we have had on the shelves for quite a long time, but we didn't have the resources to kickstart it. But thank God this year we had some resources and we have some partnership where we can actually push it forward. And it is for those reasons I want to explain to you guys, just take a couple minutes to explain to you what is Afri-Dominion and what is Afri-Dominion show. Because I think that's a perfect way to actually get started with the conversation so that we can also jump right in the program. So what is Afri-Dominion? Afri-Dominion is a concept, it's an idea that inspires, advocates, help, even encourages all of you sons and daughters, African descendants, to take back the dominion of Africa, one nation at a time. Again, by you, sons, daughters, and African descendants. We're not talking about foreigners. We're talking about the sons, the sons, daughters, and you who are kings and queens of Africa. And all in the interest of African people, first and foremost, and then the rest of the world afterwards. So again, Afri-Dominion, it's an idea that inspires, advocates, encourages, and help take back the full dominion of Africa, African resources, African leadership, the whole 9 yards, by the sons, daughters, African descendants, for the purpose or for the interest of African people. And here we go, one nation at a time. And want to make sure that we get to reap the benefit first and foremost before everybody else. Why? Because everything that we do, we want to make sure that if it doesn't work out, if it doesn't work for us, let's not go ahead and spread it everywhere. So the show here, the Afri-Dominion show, it's a mouthpiece of this idea. Afri-Dominion show, it's a program. It's literally a program that speaks everything, or programs. We program, we bring conversation, we bring material that actually advocates, that encourages, that help, that inspires all of you guys to be in charge, to be a part of total dominion of Africa. The same way we inspire you, we encourage you, we advocate. Even the show itself, the programs should be inspiring. They should be advocating. They should be encouraging you and helping You take a full control, a full dominion of Africa and African resources. By you, sons and daughters, kings and queens, African descendants. Again, all in the interest of African people first and foremost, and then the rest of the world afterwards. And I also want to make it clear that this is not discrimination at all. This is simply a means and a way to make sure that we get our house in order. First and foremost, African houses must be back in order. For centuries, African home has been destroyed. The house has been on fire. Sons and daughters have been dispersed throughout the world, mostly into slavery. Very few of them could find themselves in forest, in harm's way. So we're bringing back everybody at home. We're rebuilding back our home first and foremost, and then take care of business afterwards. So it's not discrimination. The same way every single nation takes care of its own citizen first and foremost before they take care of other citizens. It's no different than what we are doing here. But I guess one of the uniqueness thing of what we do here, we actually come in your face and say, this is what we intend to do. Over here, we are led by the spirit of truth, love, and trust. So we're not going to sugarcoat anything. So if we want to be truthful, if we want to make sure that everything we're doing is truthful, we have to put it out there so you can measure it up. And it also has to come from a good, loving heart. This is love. This is not hate. And if you put it on a scale and it doesn't measure up as something that has love in it, we don't want to be in it. We don't want a part of it. And we also publicly put it out there so you can also put it on a scale and make sure that that element is there. If you cannot trust the activities, the programs, everything we are doing, we have no business being on air. We also ask you to literally put it on a scale. Make sure that it's something that you can trust. If it's trustworthy, then share it with others. But if it's not true, if you cannot find if you cannot trust the content or the programs or the activities that we are involved in, badmouth us and everybody on the team, because we don't want to be spreading garbage. We don't want to be spreading information, programs that are not going to be helpful, especially to our own people. So that's how we roll. We publicly roll like that, and we make no apologies. I am not ashamed, and I'm not running under the tables. I'm not scared. I'm not hiding. No, we don't do none of that. The same way you can proudly say, hey, I believe in this, I believe in that, I believe in that. You also come boldly. You come truthfully, boldly, and with no apologies, and then you just pour your heart out. And then link up with the rest of your brothers and sisters and do the same. We help one another, and then we get to help the rest of the world because it's a responsibility that all of us must share and should be sharing. So I wanted that to be clear, guys, to all of you who have been tuning into our program, especially those of you who are tuning in on televisions, and those of you on social media, because we realize that social media penetrates in some countries that we don't have any airwaves on, or that we don't have any access to radio station. So those of you on social media, if you do receive this program, by all means share it with others, especially if you like it. And challenge us, come and boldly challenge us the same way we can boldly stand and speak our minds. I also want to make it clear that our program is not meant to be divisive. Oftentimes we might speak, we might have conversation that are really strong in the language, and we end up getting booted off some of the networks because they may not like what we are saying. Again, the topics that we talk about, as you will see briefly, are regular topics, but we know that they are sensitive to some people. Especially, for example, I just put it out there, like I said, we speak boldly, we speak truthfully to you guys. Anytime we talk about slavery, we always get cut off. Literally, we have been getting cut off every time we talk about slavery. Keyword slavery, it may actually, it may cause some of these networks to cut us, to cut our programs off. or out. And when they do that, before they even listen to the idea, they're actually being prejudiced against us because of simply these keywords that might be in the program. And it is for those reasons we've been making it clear, and I will repeat it again. We are here so we can unify our own people, even unify the world. But if we're not unified ourselves, how can you dare ask the world to unify? If we're not truthful amongst ourselves, how can you dare ask the planet to be truthful? If you cannot stand, if you feel offended by what I'm saying, before you actually even fully understand the full context of it, how can you be fair? How can you actually even roll with others in that same predicament? So we understand that the content that we share here could be very sensitive and could be offending to some of you. But as long as it's the truth, even if it offends you, our job is completed. Because we are not here to hate or to spread hate. We are here to rectify and to correct some of the errors that have been made centuries back. But today, these errors, they bring shame to some generations, to some people, to some institutions. And that shame, we want to say it's okay. None of us are perfect. We are bringing it to light so that we can actually find a long-lasting relationship, a long-lasting solution to our own issues, our own situations. If you feel like we are finger pointing, first and foremost, see if that finger pointing has any truth to it. If it does not have any truth to it, then come forward. The same way we are publicly saying something, also come and publicly correct us. That's why we say these conversations are live, and you can tune in and you can actually come into the studio in real time as it happens. Also, even after we've done being live, we also still give you the way to comment, the way to actually have a saying in the conversation by just simply say, hey, such and such conversation, this program that you aired on such and such a day, ABCD wasn't accurate. Or I would like to add on, my 2 cents about what's been happening. We do take those. We do take that in granted. Because like I say, we are building. We are building lives. We are building communities. We are rebuilding ourselves. And because that is our intention, we are not going to cut any corners, guys. We're not going to cut any corners. So I just want you guys to know that if the language is strong, be matured to understand what we are saying. And if it is inaccurate, come forward and say, this is plain out wrong. This is plain out, this is not correct. Because none of us are perfect. We can be corrected on air. But if we're speaking the truth, I'm telling you guys, we're not going to back down. Because we do our own due diligence to dig some information. We do our own research. While we may not get everything correct, but we actually try to do our own due diligence on this program. That is our benchmarks. You can expect that. Also put it on a scale. We always say that. So with that in mind, I want to go right ahead and let you know that this broadcast starts from 12 Eastern Standard Time to 1:30. Those of you who aren't familiar with the time zones that we have here in the United States, Eastern Standard Time is Washington, D.C. time. So when you look at your respective regions, we are in Washington, D.C. Region, so it is the time that we broadcast based on our Washington, D.C. time. You can convert it based on where you are around the world, especially if you want to catch us live via social media, via uplinks, however it is that you would like to catch us live. We go by the Washington, D.C. time frames. And we broadcast Monday through Friday. Every day we have different themes. On Mondays, we talk about the eradication of refugees and stateless persons. This is also a very loaded theme. It has many programs packed. It has many, it just has so much going on within that theme itself. Everything related to refugees and stateless person. And again, We're not looking at the entire world refugee problems. We are exclusively narrowing it down to just African refugees and African stateless person. Same thing on Tuesday. On Tuesday, we talk about the Constitution, law, and policy review and implementation. And this is strictly African constitutions. On Wednesdays, we talk about our testimonies. We get to write our own history by our own selves, by our own people. And not by somebody else, especially if you have been a colonizer, if you were colonized. We want to make sure that you tell your own story the way you know it, and you don't tell it the way your master has taught you how to tell it. Again, don't feel offended, because this is the truth and nothing but the truth. You come truthfully, I come truthfully, we sit down on a table and we discuss. And we grow together, There is absolutely no animosity, there is absolutely no hate. This is education, guys. And if we do not come through, we stand corrected. You can come and correct us at any given time. On Thursdays, we talk about the spirit of dominion. What is the spirit of dominion? This word dominion, it's a loaded word. Dominion entails having a charge of something. When you dominate, you have control over something. But you cannot dominate something you do not know, something you do not have any knowledge of, something you do not have any comprehension over. So you have to be able to be equipped with information. You have to know that information. You have to comprehend it. And then you have to utilize it to take charge. When you dominate, you take charge of something. You govern it. You protect it. You make it better. You give it more life than what it normally had before. So when we talk about the spirit of dominion, it is our spirit to revive our own culture, to revive Africa, to make better Africa. All over again. It's leadership, it's management, both resource-wise, leadership-wise, but also so many other things happening there, making sure that we do it without cutting in corners. Fridays, we get to talk about the current event and its impact to Africa and African affairs, or African people as well. Again, all these themes, they are loaded. And we invite you to come and participate to each and every one of the themes that actually speak to your heartbeat. And with that in mind, today is Monday. So as I just told you, today is we are going to focus on refugees and stateless person. And speaking of which, the topic today, it goes like, can we eradicate both the refugee and stateless conditions without addressing the root cause? That's what we're going to talk about today. Oftentimes, especially here in the West, when we talk about a refugee person, the understanding of what that means, it's different. It is completely different than when you talk about a refugee in Africa or any other place that's either having some sort of warfare or like a crisis. I was born in Rwanda. And in Rwanda has gone through so much, especially warfare from the 90s up until now. There has been instability. The whole region has instability. Even though right now as we broadcasting, in Rwanda physically there's no war in the country, but there is a different kind of war, an invisible war. The 90s were the most horrific times of Rwanda. We had a war from 1990, and that war started in October 1st, 1990. And that war was officially over July 19th. However, it continued, meaning the fight, guns and everything continued all the way to like 2000, 2003. Even today, it still goes on. However, it's going on outside of Rwanda. Occasionally, within Rwanda, but now it is now unofficial. And because of that, there has been consequences of these wars from what's been recognized as a war from 1990 to 1995, and then even post-wars, meaning when Rwanda decided to actually follow refugees across the border, killed some of them, repatriated some others, put some others in jail. I mean, they did so much. Up to this very day, this is happening. And so, here in the West, a refugee, it's like something you see in a movie. The comprehension of a refugee versus someone who's actually a refugee, it is two different things. Which is why I'm asking you right now, can you fix a situation without knowing its root cause? I would equate it to this. Let's say I have a headache, and then I head on to an emergency room at the hospital. So as soon as I arrive at the emergency, they ask me what's wrong, and I say, my foot is hurting me. Like I just feel bad on my foot. Remember, I got a headache. But when they're asking me what appears to be a problem, I'm telling them that my feet is hurting me. Right then and there, the doctors will not even bother looking for my head, looking for the head. They will go straight to the foot. So if, for whatever reason, you do not have the root cause of an issue, of a disease, how can it be properly addressed? If you got a stomach ache and then you tell your doctor that your arm is hurting you, they're not going to bother looking at your stomach. They'll go straight to your arm. So there is a relationship between a patient and a doctor. And that relationship has to be both ways. Because doctors are not magicians. They are not magicians. They cannot read you so that they can easily use whatever the telekinesis and go straight inside of your brain and know what's going on with you. The only one being that can do that is your creator. The same way a manufacturer knows its product, your creator knows all about you. And your creator needs not get any of your input to know what's going on with you. So since right now, for us, products, we have some faulty things happening, we got to be able to connect, hopefully, and connect right. Today, you know that at least some of you, especially on this side of time, technology right now, it has means to tell you that something is wrong. Like vehicles, for example, of today, if a vehicle needs oil change, if it needs a parts replaced, literally there is a computer that specifically tells you something is wrong. Mechanics are no longer needed because the vehicle can self-diagnose and spit out the problem. Now, if we have become that advanced technologically, why is it that us as human beings, we are still in the Stone Age when it comes to self-diagnosing ourselves? Self-diagnose doesn't work. So how can you repair? How can you fix? How can you resolve? How can you figure out the mystery of what's happening in your life when you don't have a means to even self-check yourself? That's the first and foremost problem. If you cannot figure out what the problem is, you absolutely would not know the solution for it. So we talk about refugees. That's just a symptom. Stateless person is a symptom that manifests in various ways. But that symptom has a root. That symptom has where it begins. And this is what I actually I would hope that all of you refocus your attention, you refocus your thinking. Don't spend too much time on the symptom. Spend a whole lot of time on the source of the symptom. If you see a headache is just a symptom. It's an evidence that my head has a situation going on. There is a problem. Evidently, I got a headache. Refugee and refugees. This is an evidence of a situation amongst us, especially Africans. If that condition is there, and evidently we find you in the United States when you're supposed to be in Ghana, when you're supposed to be in Rwanda, when you're supposed to be in Rwanda, when you're supposed to be in Burundi, when you're supposed to be in Tanzania, in Uganda, wherever your native country is, and you have not arrived there voluntarily. Either warfare or some situation forced you to get out of your house, forced you to leave your village, forced you to absolutely abandon your nation. Now, have you taken the time to fully understand what that situation was? What led to you leaving your native land and find yourself outside of your native land? That's what I'm interested in. I never knew, for example, as a kid, I literally never knew that Rwanda had refugees who have been outside of Rwanda for, so in the 80s, and 50s, and for more than 30 years, because I'm an 80s kid. So imagine when I was born, I was never taught, I was never communicated, I never knew that there are people who live in shelters. There are people who are homeless. I've never met a homeless person in Rwanda. True story. And not even exaggerating. I saw a homeless person first and foremost when I arrived to the United States. That's when I literally saw people who sleep on the streets without literally a place to sleep on. I saw that. And the way I knew of the United States, by the way, the United States in Rwanda is called America. So when you say the United States, it's too difficult. We just say America. So when you go to America, when you hear of America, aka the United States, you think of gold, you think of all kinds of riches, you think of like completely bizarre lifestyle that is surreal. Now imagine that's what I thought. Because when I would watch MTV, that's one of the channels that we watched. We used to watch like Beverly Hills 90210, some of those shows on MTV. I mean, we were privileged enough to have access to a television that we could actually watch MTV. But not everybody could have access to that. We could watch some of the French channels as well. So there is a certain mindset we had based on how they wanted us to know of Europe, of the United States, and so on. I want you to get where I'm going with this. So because my mindset was different when it came to the United States, I never thought that you could have hunger in the United States. That was something I could never imagine. In Rwanda, people were hungry. We certainly had some places where there was hunger. But I remember even the hunger back in the 80s and the 90s, people still shared the little that they had. We had street kids in Rwanda, for example. But those street kids, they chose to want to be street kids. Either they came from the village, they abandoned their lifestyle in the village because they wanted opportunities and so on, and they came in the city. And then also, a lot of times, you would find someone who would actually give you a place to sleep. That's how I remember Rwanda. And then everybody had a place to live. I mean, for the first time, I was introduced to things like an apartment. In Rwanda, everybody lives in a house, guys. It's a lifestyle. The apartments and the likes. If you live like in a building, it's like a luxury. Because like living in a building, it's like so fancy, it's so luxe. But everybody got a little house. It may not be a brick house. It may not be the most extravagant house, but you got your own little place. You got your own little land. That's how I remember it. So now imagine a war takes place, and then you are forced to leave your house. You are forced to leave your village. You are forced to completely just leave everything that you have ever known. And you go in a shelter, in a shitting. The Red Cross and the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, they were passing on these tents. I mean, seriously, from your own house that you built yourself or your family helped you build to a tent. And then you have maybe, 2, 3, 4, 5 people in your family, and everybody's living in a tent. You cannot take a shower. When in your own house, you could take a shower. You could get some water, even if you might fetch it far away, but that was the lifestyle that you had. So, going back to why I was making that relationship. When I arrived here in the United States in 95, that's when I saw a homeless person on the street. I kid you not. I never knew that something like that exists. It's like you see a nice, beautiful building, like in the movies, and then you see like someone like literally like 5 meters away in a tent, and then they begging. In Kigali, I've seen people begging. That you have. But you don't see someone, or I have never seen someone who was not only begging, but also with a tent. That was a situation that I've never seen before the war. I've saw tents first by the people who had become refugees. Those tents were built by the Red Cross. I mean, it is one of those images, I don't even know how you connect it, how you link it, but I want to know if these developed nations, if they have not only internally displaced people, aka homeless. Homelessness in these developed nations, it is something that is not sexy, and they absolutely ignore. They don't deal with it. Hey, at least from what I've seen. Because over here, there is something they call the freedom of choice. If you don't like the system, how it wants to deal with you, you can choose to just ignore it. In turn, the system also sort of like ignores you. Or they give you choices. If you don't like the choices, then you do whatever it is you want to do, but it's on you. So imagine these internally displaced people, either by choice or by however you want to live your lifestyle, and then you choose to be like that. I've met people who say, you know what, I don't want to pay tax, so Uncle Sam is not going to ask me for nothing. I'm just going to live here and just and beg as a lifestyle. And I couldn't understand it. Eventually, we had to learn, because okay, you're coming to a new land, everything that you knew, it's like so upside down. Remember, in Rwanda, I've never seen a homeless person. I saw one in the United States. I've never seen the refugees until the war started, and I've seen homeless people in those tents, except the tents didn't have United Nations High Commission for Refugees or Red Cross. They were regular tent because people go camping here. So over here, camping in a tent, the association mentally, it is not as bad as someone who's been moved, who has been forced to leave their own home and find themselves in a tent. I hope you're understanding what I'm going with this. Over here, you choose to go camping outside in the jungle. It's a choice. In Rwanda, in the DRC, or the Democratic Republic of the Congo, in Uganda, in Burundi, in Tanzania, or anywhere in Africa that you might have some sort of refugee issues or situation, these people have been forced to go in forest. When you're camping in these nations in the West, You actually, you bring all your little tools here. You bring some water. You have where you go, fetch some water. You have where you go take a shower. I mean, it's not a forever sort of like ordeal. In Africa, as a refugees, if you even are lucky to have that tent, that's all you got. It's a tent. Imagine a human being from a house of your own to a tent that's been given to you. A place where you could go fetch some water for yourself, or you have water, running water in your own house, to a place where you have to be allocated some water. It's like now you get in a situation where everything is just given to you, and it's been weighted. You are given as little as possible because it's sort of like feeding thousands and thousands of people. Now, if that life becomes difficult, you decided to go solo. Now, not only you don't have a tent, you're going to have to find a land and a place to start life in the jungle, like animals. So, a choice to go camping, no choice, a forced camping. If you are forced to go camp, you are forced to flee, to leave your own place. So the whole two situation, it's a situation that's been happening for centuries for African people. So the symptom, why do you become a refugee? Why do you have to leave your own house? Why do you have to leave your own village? Why do you have to leave your own community? And why is it that your own nation cannot fix that situation? Your neighbors, your neighboring country, why is it that they can't fix the situation? I have come to find out that the whole refugee crisis, it's a manufactured event. It's something that as human beings, we have chosen to create. For many reasons, for economic reasons, for political reasons, for land takeover. There are so many reasons why. But the biggest is the political reasons and the economic reasons. I usually would say political warfare and economic warfare. And of course, you realize that every time, and development also, development warfare or development reasons. And I will explain myself. A country doesn't just wake up and people leave their own places. You have behind the scene organizations that get together and they say, you know what, we want the conditions in this land to change from A to B. And they do not care the consequences except whatever the interest that they're seeking out. So, and as soon as they cook the situation, they plan it, and then once they plan it, they put it into action. The victims, also known as the people who were originally in those lands, they react to the situation first and foremost by trying to save their own lives. That's the human instincts. When there is danger, the first and foremost you abandon, you try to settle yourself. So, not only do they don't get a chance to actually to calm down and say, wait, what just happened to my homeland? How did I get here? They are constantly being pushed out into so many situations. If you're lucky, you don't die. You never get a chance to actually go back and figure out how did we get here. So you start reacting and you're reacting, and then other people react towards you as well. Imagine you're living your own home, you go to your neighboring country. They were living okay, they had their own little resources, they knew how to take care of themselves. And all of a sudden, you bring in 50,000 people over there, overnight. without any card that says, hey, by the way, next month we will be coming, and the whole nation will be coming to you. So please prepare because we are coming. It never goes like that. So those nations that receive us as refugees, they also react. Oftentimes super unprepared. Oftentimes with hostility. Oftentimes they're trying to get rid of you because you're becoming a problem that they have not planned. All along, the same people who have planned for that situation, then they go around in turn and go to the other nation, and then they start rearranging how they want you guys to behave. Guys, understand me again. There are facts to what we are saying. We are not just saying it for the heck of saying it. So now imagine you have been taken out of your own place. You are forced to go to another place. The same people who have planned for you to live out your own place, they also have planned to come in your new place, or the new place that's receiving you. They have planned to come over and they remanage, or they manage the situation. Because remember, you yourselves, you are just reacting, you're trying to save your life. They have been prepared to give you a little bit of shelter, a little bit of ease to that situation, but at the same time now changing your lifestyle. So now, imagine you have no idea that that's what's going on. Those people, they have a blueprint of when it starts, how it's gonna go, and when it becomes over, or when it finishes, or when it ends. You have no idea that even such thing exists. What would you do today, right now, if you knew that, for example, like the war in Rwanda was a planned war, very well planned, and the craziest thing, not by the Rwandese people. I know, for those of you who aren't familiar, who are not aware of it, the war that took place in Rwanda from 1990, October 1st, and that's still happening today, it was not masterminded by the Rwandese people. It was planned by the outsiders. But guess who were the foot soldiers, Rwandese people. So even when they went to execute now, when the whole, I was going to use a not so good word. Let me make sure that they don't boot us off today. When it came to the judgment time, again, the foot soldiers were judged, but the masterminds have yet to be judged. Up to this day, guys, in 2022. Hear me correctly. For 28 plus years, the life that have flipped for Rwandese people. The whole entire history wiped and changed. The death of the people, the refugee problem and the stateless person problems. The whole entire situation for 28 plus, the mastermind still haven't been taken to court. Because you don't see the mastermind. You see the middlemen. You see the little people who are taking the command, who are taking the plans that have already been pushed out of them. Truthful speaking, guys. Truthfully. So now imagine, up to this very moment, giving an example of Rwanda, you have the current government, which was fighting, which was a rebel back in those days. They went and slept with the enemy. They went and colluded with foreigners. They went and they sold out the country. But also, we gotta be also clear, but we also have to disclose the fact that the rebels were some sons and daughters of the refugees, the Rwandese refugees, who were already out of the nation, out of the country from like the 50s and the 60s. But there were other opportunists, also individuals, companies, and states that also took the situation for resources and for other reasons, and they supported and they decided to support them. Now, using all those pieces together, someone was a conductor. They knew what happens, when it happens, how it's gonna go, who is gonna do what, and for how long it's going to take place. So up to this moment, that root cause has yet to be fully and thoroughly diagnosed. Which means for 28 plus years, the situation in Rwanda, the death, the consequences of what has happened has yet to be fully examined, and definitely justice has yet to be served. Because you have people who have committed not only treason, but they've committed murder. We're talking about foreign institutions, foreign organizations, foreign individuals, even foreign states. Now, when we talk about that, that's when we get booted off. That's when they say, whoa, 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 what are you talking about? That's when you sometimes get threatened. Like now, you are out of your line. Stay in line. Remember, someone is telling you to stay in line. Who are you to tell me what line I gotta stay in if you haven't already carved a lane for me? Remember, we have slave masters who had already had slave situation going on, and they wanted to continue that situation. That's what's been happening here too. Right now, those invisible forces, they are actually not invisible. It's just that they put a mask on, like the COVID-19 mask. They put a mask on for those of you who do not actually see. But we see. Today we see. We know who you are. We know who they are. And that's when we have in this conversation, when they listen that we are actually writing them out openly, boldly, without being afraid of them, they're like, wait. How is it that these little slaves, these little kids, are bold enough to actually come in our face, using our own technology, using now our own means oftentimes, and then they have the boldness to say, you're the one who have done that. I mean, that's quite something, I would actually also say. And so because of that, some of our own people, let's say for instance, if I was one of the foot soldiers who have committed a crime against you, let me just be explicit so that we can have a more valid example. So in 1994, Rwandan people, they intermarried for centuries actually. So you have the Hutus, you have the Tutsis, and then you have the Twas. And the third ethnic group, it's rarely spoken of because it was only like 1% in the whole Rwanda. The Hutus were like 85%, the Tutsis were 14%, and then the Twas were like 1%. So this whole entire situation when it erupted, guess who lost the most people? The Twas. Because even up to this day, people don't know about them. They have become extinct. Just like the Native Americans. The Native American in the United States. They used to be in the whole United States. Now they were forced to be in reservation like zoos. So think about it. They live in little reservation places like the zoo. So at least they could actually increase its numbers. So now the Hutus and the Tutsis and the Twa, they're all intermarried. It was even up to this very moment, it's very rare to find what you can call a pure race. But now in 1994, they made it so that a husband could actually kill his own wife as an ultimatum. And if he didn't, they could either kill the whole entire family. A wife could easily rat out the husband or even kill him. Or else the whole entire family can perish. So you have a situation where the same family members killed each other. And now today, consequently, imagine now 28 years later, you saw me with a machete, killing your own family member, or even your brother, your sister. Will you ever imagine that someone somewhere in the West, in one of these beautiful fancy buildings in Washington, in New York, in London, in Montreal, in Quebec, in Toronto, in Shanghai, would you actually even imagine that there was someone up there who actually have planned that, hey, this is what we want to do, this is what we are planning to do? It's very difficult for you to even conceive that, because you physically saw me doing the deed. You've never seen that person in that high-rise building. But those people planned. They planned the whole thing, made sure that they push the plan to these generals. I call the generals almost like let me use an analogy that you guys would understand. You realize that in a company you have a chain in command. You have the CEO, you have the VPs, you have a director of operations, this and that and that and that. So you don't get to see the CEO. You don't get to see his advisors or her advisors. You started seeing the region directors, the chief operation officers in different regions. And these chief operation officers were actually linking up to presidents all around. In this instance, these chief operation officers, they recruited, they approached the RPF of the Rwandan Patriotic Front. They approached some of those refugees and say, hey, by the way, we have seen how your situation is really horrible. We can help you. Go back home, take whatever it is you think is yours. However, you will also help us. We have a certain interest we want to secure. If we work with you and you work with us, we can have a dance. So guess what? These refugees, their descendants, they decided, you know what? That sounds like a plan. They got financed. They got connected. They were given all the tools necessary, even the education, to top it off. And guess what? Then they marched towards Rwanda. The situation erupts. Rwanda, as it is, also reacts to the situation as it's true, because it was called independent nation in words, and the whole fight starts. But again, because now you have these invisible forces and the visible forces, the invisible force makes sure that the visible force has continuously an upper hand. So they literally playing almost like chess, back and forth, until it gets down to that individual, to that innocent person who is now forced to flee, oftentimes killed as a casualty, and has nowhere to go and claim for the wrongdoing that's being done towards them up to this very moment. So now, here we are, we're talking about like what has happened. What is the root cause? Guess what? The root cause is that someone in that building, someone who had other interests, who has provided the means, who has provided the logistics, who has provided everything, and they gave it to us. Not to say that we remove our own act in it, but the mastermind you have yet to know. That is the root cause. So now if we go straight to the mastermind, all hell get loose, really. All hell break loose, literally. Because now, what you did not know, it's becoming evident. Now that same invisible force that wanted to remain anonymous is realizing that, wait, after all these little people got brain, they can add 2 and 2 together and figure out what's happening. And that's what now I'm bringing right back to this situation here. So now we are addressing the root cause of that headache. Could it be that maybe you have been ignoring water, whatever it is? Now the refugee situation, for example, for Rwandese people, what was the root cause? I submit to you guys that Rwanda was in the wrong place at the wrong time. The root cause was not, the root cause, greed. The root cause was natural resource. The root cause was, again, the control over Africa, the dominion of Africa by the outsiders and not the African people. That is the true root cause of what has happened in Rwanda. I have yet to see any of you bringing that on the table, because you are curing a headache. You are curing the narrow issue with the refugees. You are curing the narrow issue with me with a machete and with you with a gun and the other guy doing God knows what, because that's what we are visually seeing. But you haven't seen that person who has sold me, who has given me that gun, who has given me that machete, and who has given me the training of how to use that machete or how to use that gun. None of that is being scrutinized, because you are reacting to me killing you own kind right now. And then someone behind the scene is packaging my crimes, it's packaging my acts, and make sure that the entire world knows that I'm a killer, knows that I'm an animal. Because not only they can show it, now they even got the evidence. Now how can you possibly even go behind the scene and say, okay, wait, for a poor person, for a poor community, for a poor village, for a poor nation, how did you manage to get these gadgets? How did you get to know how to use them? Who helped you? What was this relation? What's going on with this kind of relationship? How did you get there to go and murder and kill your own kind? Using gadgets that you do not make in your nations. With the knowledge and the expertise that your nation has yet to acquire. Now, the minute you start poking around, that's when you either disappear, you get killed. Other things start happening to you. Because now you're no longer addressing the symptom of what's already happened. You're actually going back, trying to figure out how it started, who started it, when did it get started, for what purpose did the situation take place for. And that's what I want you guys to see today. Now, you have a hurt person who's been turned into a refugees, who have lost loved ones. Now you're asking that person to go ahead and try to help an entire village, an entire community, an entire nation to get back in the right conditions. And they themselves have yet to actually figure out what has happened to me. How did I become a refugee? Who murdered my people? Who killed my people? There is the one who did the act, but there is also a mastermind. So far, Rwanda has actually persecuted. They prosecuted the ones who did the deed, including some who are absolutely innocent also. who have been actually gifted. They've been gifted some crimes, and they've stayed there for 20 plus years. So you've got angry people, innocent and guilty ones, and you've got victims also who do not know the true mastermind and who have seen some people killing their own people. And then you have the opportunists who actually are told, hey, go lie on behalf of this and that so I can give you the land, I can give you this and that. You have a mess situation. You have a more complicated situation where now you becoming a refugee, it becomes permanent. Because the minute you're trying to sort out all those little things, you realize that, man, I actually don't even have a reference point. What you thought was a reference point isn't a reference point. That's how deep this issue goes, guys. So why are we taking the time to talk about this? Can we really, 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 really end homelessness, refugees, and stateless person if we do not get to go all the way to the mastermind, all the way to those fancy buildings, right where the ideas, the concepts are generated from originally? Can we cure the refugee situation of our brothers and sisters without actually prosecuting the true masterminds who have planned it, took time to plan it, took time to say this is acceptable and that's not acceptable? I'll give you an example. There are some meetings here in the United States where they say, you know what, the situation in Rwanda is going to be terrible. About 50,000 people are going to die and it's acceptable. Just imagine someone sitting on a table. You're having a meeting with a bunch of these stakeholders and you're actually betting on another human being and you say 50,000 people, it's quite acceptable. Just think about those people. Me and these other people here, we're sitting down and we're talking about your fate and it's acceptable. That has happened before the war took place. That was already signed off, checked off as acceptable before it happened. But because now, us as Africans, us as Rwandese people, we have not bothered, we've never bothered to go deep into the situation, to dive really, to just look further, look deeper. Oftentimes because we didn't have any means or we didn't even know where it all started, since most of us, we just fell in it. But others were afraid. Because remember, our elder parents, our elder ancestors, they have been enslaved for so long that those who resisted were killed, were exterminated. Look what has happened to the native Indians in the United States. There's a history, guys. So, if you do not comply, you are automatically wiped off. So now you've got all those ancestors who decided to actually to work on behalf of these invisible people, of this invisible institution. Be it refugees or not outside of Rwanda, they've connected with them. And then they made sure that they infiltrated the country also. And they took the commands, whatever that was decided in those fancy buildings, and then they brought it on the terrain, on the field. They started executing what was requested of them. I hope you get to see where I'm going with this. Close to 30 years later, actually 31 plus years later, because I was looking from 1994, but the war started in 1990. And today we are 2022. Close to 32 years later, not one single Rwandese person has yet to say, can we get justice for the Rwandese people? Many African nations right now, they have situation with refugees, just like Rwanda has situation with refugees. But none of them has yet to dive deeper to the root cause, because the root cause is, it's not us, it's external. And the minute you start snooping around, especially if you are weak, if you're not bold enough, you may start losing people, you may start losing your job, you may start losing the loved ones. You get intimidated by different kind of forces. And some of these forces, they call themselves democratic. They call themselves saviors. They call themselves advanced, developed, all kinds of fancy names. And these are the same forces that actually masterminded your extermination, masterminded the murder, the genocide, all these little fancy words that we are utilizing against our own people today. So at what point do you come and own up as a people? At what point do you come in and say, okay, let's go back. What has happened? Yes, you were refugees. Yes, we fought on this day and that day during this year. This was the beef between us. Yes, we haven't fixed the problem. But how did you get here? How did you connect with these people? How did you arrive where you are right now? None of us have taken the time to actually see that big picture and sort it out by our own selves. And this is where the masterminds are still controlling everything. They call it a game. It's a game where the pawns are real people, where decisions are actually having consequences to real lives. But for them, it's still a game. For them, it's acceptable. This is Africa after all. Remember, monkeys and all of that? So it is very necessary that we actually broaden the scope of everything that we do. We have to go all the way to defensive buildings. We have to absolutely examine, research. There is a good thing about these nations. Every 25 years or more, classified information becomes declassified. Even though that information may not become 100% declassified, it helps to know so much that has happened. Today, again, if I go back to the situation in Rwanda, there is so much information that shows how Rwandese people have been duped. External forces have committed murder in the open. They are still committing murder. They've committed genocide in the open. And not one single one of them has gone to jail. They've created a refugee situation for a lifetime, for generations. Because with the refugee problem at hand, they can easily be able to pursue their other interests. Guys, this is the truth. Examine what I'm saying. Do your own research. But if you so choose, we can also share with you what we got so far. Why is it that this information was not up in the open 30 years ago? Why is it that the so-called advanced African nations, those of you who were at least more mature than some of the younger nations, why didn't you help your brothers and sisters to sort out themselves, to pinpoint where the issues were? We were also asleep. We were asleep. But today we are no longer asleep. If we are to take back the dominion of Africa, if we are to take back the leadership of Africa and African resources, you got to go all the way, guys. You got to go all the way, and you have to be also hard. You cannot bring any emotions out of this. Because if a nation says, I have interest here, I have to secure my interest here, those are the words that are actually utilized. I'll give you a perfect example right now, which is happening. What is Russian interest in Ukraine? Why are there bombs going on every single day? What is the United States' interest in the Democratic Republic of the Congo? What is France's interest in the Democratic Republic of the Congo? So, all these nations, they have interests that they're seeking after. In order for them to secure their own interests, something else has to happen. Be it whether it's a war, whether it's people displacement, whatever means necessary for the interest to be secured, these nations are doing it. And one of the consequences of the securing of the interest of external nations, one of the consequences is refugee problem and stateless people, specifically African refugees, because we're talking about African people. So you have many nations seeking after interest in your own homeland. They have not actually asked you for permission. They have not discussed, they haven't even asked kindly. They're just taking over. That's what's happening, truthfully, today. So earlier members said that Rwanda was a wrong nation at the wrong time. There is a nation called Zaire. Today it's called the Democratic Republic of the Congo. During the slavery time, it used to be called the Congo. The Belgian colonized that and they made them slaves. Congolese people used to be personal slaves of King Leopold. Personal slaves. The whole entire country was a personal nation of the king. Just think about how sick we are as a people sometimes. So you enslave other human beings and they are your personal property. Same thing in the United States. Same thing in the United Kingdoms. Same thing in France. A lot of these nations that are having a hand in the leadership of the entire globe, most of them used to be colonizers. Again, this is the truth. Educate yourself, guys. So, if they have tested what it feels like to have resources that they do not have at their own disposal, and today you trying to grow up, you're trying to reclaim what is rightfully yours, and they're like, hell no. We need this, okay? We know it's yours, but we need it also. They have not sat down with you and said, can we actually coexist together? Can you guys help us with this and that and that? And that's what we are. That's what we want to do. That's what we intend to do. We understand we cannot just write off the entire world. It's not possible. But we also expect the world to behave the same way they want us to behave. If we can coexist, like I said, Africa has more than enough resources to feed the entire world. But with or without your permission, we are coming back in charge, guys. We are coming back in charge and we must take back the full dominion of Africa and African affairs, which means you got to wisen up and open up your mind. However you do it, you must be able to mature. We got to be able to stop fighting amongst ourselves. We got to be able to stop selling ourselves. We have to stop selling our nations. We have to stop signing these agreements with foreigners who have zero interest in you and your own people, first and foremost. And they're seeking after their own interests. And this one is gonna irritate you guys, but it's what we gotta do. We absolutely going to have to squash all the agreements that are not in the best interest of Africa first and foremost. It doesn't matter when they were when they were enacted. I call it when you are having an agreement with a toddler. A toddler is not in a position to decide for themselves. However, because you put it in writing, and that toddler, by the time they're growing up, they wise enough, they realize that they have done the worst kind of decision in their whole lives. They're not liable. Today, Africa and African nations, they have been colonized through contracts. They have been enslaved all over again through contracts. And these contracts have become the new shackles of Africa and African people. And it is our responsibility to absolutely shred all these contracts. I always said, if all things equal, if we take the same contract and we flip them over, would you sign those same contracts? Right now, if one of the consequences of these contracts is refugees' problem, and then in turn you're saying go back to your own country. So you're pushing us to go back in our own country, and you're also bringing on the other side another wrench. You say, okay, you're in your own country, but again, I'm in charge in your own country. We can't have both of it together. So we are going to have to speak some of the most, how can I say it? We will discuss some of the languages that you do not want to talk about, because it puts you in a position where you look like you are the animal kind, the one who's actually an animal. It makes you look like you are the one actually who's more, who's the worst kind of a human being. We see the one who committed the crime. Think about the plan, the mastermind now. If you can sit down and conceive wiping out 100 million people, 200 million. I mean, even monsters are not that bad. So that's why now these invisible stakeholders, they make it a point. They make it a point to have zero tolerance on anybody who may dare go there. But time has come, guys, and the season is right now. I am not living because of the mercy of any of these nations. It is not your mercy that I'm still alive right now. It is not your mercy that I'm still alive. In our language, they say there's a proverb that goes like, the chicks, the little chicken chicks, their survival, it is not the mercy of eagle birds. Meaning, eagles, they're looking for chicks so they can have lunch. So those little chicks, they become chicken, not because of the mercy of eagles. So today you might feel like you're strong. My survival, it is not your mercy. It is not you permitting me to live. And that's one of the things we have to absolutely reprogram back in your minds, brothers and sisters. Know who you are. You are kings and queens of Africa and African resources. You are not living by favors of the colonizers or anybody else who's taken charge of your own lives, of your own nations, and your resources. You gotta be able to rise. You gotta be able to rise and say, I'm sorry, but today it's over. However you see it, however you feel about it, it's over. This is my home. That is your home. Whatever the understanding you may sign, as of today, it's over. You do not sign an agreement with a toddler and expect the toddler to comply with those agreements, knowingly that you're signing the agreement with the toddlers. So all of this we're going to have to revisit. We are revisiting, and we ask no apologies to any one of you. Guys, let me end it over there. They're telling me that my time's up. I want to say thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for this conversation. Go think about what we have talked about. Again, if you do not know the root cause of your illness, can you honestly and truthfully cure yourself? if we do not know the root cause of the African refugees and stateless person, can you cure that situation? I will leave it at that. And I am looking forward to your comments, to your feedbacks. Go to afridominion.com and shoot us a message. Email us at info@afridominion.com. And then let's come and dance, guys. Let's do what we gotta do with no apologies to nobody, because it is who we are, kings and queens. Guys, with that in mind, thank you so much. Thank you kindly. I am Freeman Singirankabo with Afridominion. A huge thanks to HMG Network and the affiliates for having broadcasted our signal. Again, we are building a nation. We are building back our continent. And we are actually spreading love, truth, love, and trust. That's what we're spreading. We do not want to spread hate. We do not do hate. But we are absolutely going to die for the truth, for the love, and for the trust. Anywhere, anytime, that's who we are. Guys, thank you so very much for the opportunity to serve you. Until we see you next time, have yourself a beautiful day, and God bless.